Welcome to the Golden Belt Buckle podcast. Today we're going to talk about Navjeet Singh. He's the truck driver that killed a 35-year-old mother and her 8-year-old daughter near Altona, Manitoba. He fled. It looks like he fled the country right after the accident. He went to the hospital, said he was too shaken up to give a statement to the police, so he promised to come back the next day. He never showed up, and so the police, they issued a Canada-wide warrant for his arrest, and he was then arrested a year later. So this happened last November. He was arrested a year later, almost a year later, just a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago, here in August, coming into Pearson Airport off an Ethiopian airline, which implies he left. So this guy's a Brampton, he's a Brampton truck driver, so it's not really shocking. To the general public, it wouldn't have been a shock to us that he would have tried to flee the country, right? But the police, they have said in a statement, well, looking back, hindsight's 2020, right? Now we know he was a flight risk, but seemed pretty obvious to me, right? That's the first thing we talk about out on the road, is that when someone from India gets into an accident, they could just jump on a plane and take off and go back to India. That's always the fear, right? The general public has that fear, but for whatever reason, law enforcement doesn't share that same concern. But even now, after doing this, they're still saying that bail is not out of the question, right? Bail is not out of the question. They're going to take his passport. They're going to put up a hefty amount for bail, and they're looking at, he doesn't have any prior criminal record, but maybe since he tried to run away, maybe it'll make it tougher for him to get bail. They're not sure yet, so it's still up in the air. But the family is saying, they're implying strongly that we should follow the lead of the Americans who have done away with the migrant truck driver permits. So, that's a good question. How would that look, right? What if we got rid of temporary foreign worker truck drivers? Now, I don't know if Navjeet was a temporary foreign worker. That information, to my knowledge, has not been released. I looked for it. I couldn't find it. But when you consider these fly-by-night companies and how their whole business model relies on temporary foreign workers, right? It relies on them making money off these temporary foreign workers. It relies on them exploiting these temporary foreign workers, holding them under duress, dangling the permanent residency, the hope of permanent residency over their head. That's what the whole temporary foreign worker model relies on. By hiring temporary foreign workers, not only do they make money off the LMIA, not only do they get to hold them under duress by putting them under the Driver Inc. model, because it strips them of all their employee rights, but with this Driver Inc. program, they can undercut legit trucking companies because they don't have to pay any of their employees. They don't have to pay them. They don't have to pay the payroll taxes. They don't have to pay their workers' comp, or they don't have to pay into workers' comp. They don't have, like, employment insurance. They don't have to pay vacation pay, right? So there's a list of things that regular employers have to pay their employees, which in business, any cost that my boss has to pay out for my employee, that gets passed on to the customer. So they don't have these costs that they need to send on to the customer. So their drivers being hired under the Driver Inc. model are cheaper. And so they can charge less to move the freight. So that's how they undercut legit companies. And then on top of that, because they hold these guys under duress, I've gone into the articles where they treat them like indentured servants. They run the absolute piss out of them, right? They even have them. They have them go down to the states. They do state to state pickup and delivery. They break cabotage rules. They will run them twice. In some cases, they'll run them not just a little bit over their hours. They'll have them run double shifts. They'll have them fudge their logbooks, and people don't think you can do that with an e-log. You can. There's ways of doing it. So they'll have them run unsafe equipment. So there's all these ways that these fly-by-night companies rely on these temporary foreign workers. But there's one more aspect to it, and we went into the corruption, which we're now seeing is in the States too. It's probably here as well. We already know that they were bribing drive test centers to give licenses out. But in India, when someone comes over here from India, they can get that letter of authentication that they can give to I'm assuming it's when they take they get their LMIA and their work permit, they get their letter of authentication, they can bypass, they send that in. When they get that back, this allows them to bypass the graduated licensing system. So if they have that letter that says this guy's been driving in India for 2, 3, 4, 5 years already, they don't have to go through graduated licensing when they get to Ontario. They can bypass it. So if you're to do away with that and force them to go through the graduated licensing process, that would mean they can't just come over here and go into a truck. They would have to, it would take them 1, 2, maybe even 3 years to get their driver's license and then be able to get into trucking school. So you think about it, eliminating those 3 things just for temporary foreign workers in the trucking industry, the LMIA, the Driver Inc. model, letters of authentication. I have a hard time saying that word. I don't know why. But if you were to get rid of all of those things, that would practically shut these guys down, you know? And it is kind of odd to me how, knowing what we know about these companies, I maybe have to look into it more. I'm surprised the owners are never held to account. The crazy thing about this is if you come over here and you know, you're under a state of duress, you know, you've got no rights, and you drive, you let them drive the piss out of you, and you get into an accident, it just seems like your boss gets off. Well, you get to go to prison. And I'm going to do another video on Navjeet, what this is actually going to turn out like when he goes to trial, because you're not going to like it. It'll be typical, right? But I'll tell you why. So yeah, if you were to get rid of all these 3 things, you would clean up the trucking industry. Now, who would the winners be? The general public would be the winners if you were to do this, because we would be safer, right? If you were to do this, the competition would be fair, right? I guess if you talk about losers, maybe in a way, I don't know if this would cause prices to go up, because now you got, you know, the prices for shipping would have to go up. I don't know. I'm not sure. But do you want to be safe or do you want to pay more? That's the question, right? And I also have to question something for my American listeners. I got thinking about this. If they're doing state to state, what's that say about your own country? What does that say about the corruption with your own shippers? You're telling me that they don't know these guys are Canadian? They don't know these guys are doing state to state? Like, somebody knows that these guys are doing something illegally, okay? So there's something to consider right there, you know? Maybe you got to go after the people that are hiring them too. So anyway, that's all I got for this episode. If you like what you're seeing, do me a favor, like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I'm going to do another video because there's a whole other angle to this we got to talk about as well. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be harping this illegal or this migrant trucker issue. There's so many angles to this. There's other things I want to talk about too. Anyways, till next time, keep the rubber side down. Cheers.